guys, Tambo here with your weekly core report. With the first week of NBA in the books, our Run Pure Sports hot streak continues. RPS has been on a roll, and NBA kicked off with some big winners. BigT hit 58,000 across both sites on opening night. New member Jeff Nugent hit for 10K. Shawnee hit for 22K. And on night 2, Eden Cohen shipped for a monster $250,000, taking down the main $888 tournament on DraftKings. On Wednesday, Locks hit for $72,000 on DraftKings, and on that same night, I hit my biggest NBA win yet, shipping for over $100,000 on FanDuel by simply using the premium content produced by our Run Pure Sports team. Glock's heat map provided me with the info I needed to build my lineup and help me ship. And it wasn't just NBA producing big winners. BigT pushed Guz the Bus Edwards hard on the Sunday Morning Wood Show.
I know we're saving money at running back this week, but are you spinning up for Derrick Henry?
Yeah, I mean, I can't play Derrick Henry when I'm playing Gus the Bus. I mean, that's tough.
How does every game finds its way back to Gus?
Gus went off, scoring 2 touchdowns at only 2% ownership. Make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel to get great calls like this for free on a daily basis. Gus was also featured in Big T's player pool, along with Bengals stacks. The Week 7 Burrow to Chase connection was on fire, leading to some big wins for RPS members. Congrats to P451017 for riding that stack to $15,000. And shout out to DK for 5 for staking Corey Pooler, who hit for $1,500. DK for himself hit for $4K on the afternoon slate. To top off the week, our members ran pure in some showdown contests too. Last Thursday, I shipped another King of the Beach seat with plays I highlighted in my attack plan, available to premium members, featuring Jawan Johnson in the captain slot. And the winning continued on Sunday's showdown slate with a slew of RPS logos sharing in a first place finish. Congrats to Bring the Noise, who entered 2 different lineups, which actually both tied for first. He was joined at the top by fellow RPS members Sully's World, Nuance 7, Molliver, Jay Gingery, FF Guru TX, Dub KJ, and T Brad 30 joined in, turning $68 into $1,600. Shout out as well to member Alec for turning $20 into $10K in MLB. Congrats again to all our members. If you want to be featured in the core report, drop your winning lineup in our Members Never Win channel in our premium Discord. If you're not a member, join now. You won't find a better value with all sports included for one low price. Remember, if you're not winning with us, you're watching us win. Until next time, let's keep running pure.
It's the Monday Print Factory. I'm JT Hayes. And before we go any further, I need you to do 2 things. One of them is for yourself. The other is for us, right? That's a fair deal. Something for yourself, something for us. The thing you do for yourself is you hit the subscribe button. That gives you all of our content, gives you the opportunity to win lots and lots of money, get all the shows, everything that goes on YouTube, all right? You do that. Now that you've done that, you do something for us. And that's just hit the fucking like button. As simple as that. Just come in, hit the like. Let's get that number up. Don't make the same mistake as the people watching yesterday's Sunday shows did. Did not get the plays of the day. Did not get in on all of the money won by our Run Pure Sports subscribers, including one of my favorite names. I love these screen names, especially when they're creative and unique. Jalapeno. Jalapeno turned less than $200 into $77,000. yesterday on the main slate. Just incredible. Congrats to him. And congrats to everybody watching this, because we're going to give this a shot again. Last week, we had a special guest. You know, it went a little bit wild, but this week we feel better. We feel comfortable about it. And I want to welcome in our special guest this week, CODY Main from Establish the Run. CODY, welcome. I've read some of your articles, just the best showdown articles, I think, in the industry. I've read them. I could not write them. Thanks for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, guys. Very excited to join the show. Hopefully give out some winners. I got to say, Big T, JT, the one thing that I want to come out of today's show is that at the end of this game tonight is that I can be a part of Circle Jerk season, and I can get in on the screenshots, tweet out some winners. I'm ready to do this, man. Let's get into it.
Yeah, everybody go ahead and follow at Cody Me. We want this. Yeah, he works for a competitor, sort of, but we all love Establish the Run. There are a lot of scientific analytics there that we don't necessarily do here, and it's great. So go ahead, give him a follow. We don't mind. Of course, do that after you hit the subscribe and the like button to our stuff. Then you can go on and you can go and help out the other side. Cody, thanks for joining us once again. Big T, Tony, good day yesterday. Your stuff was quite good. I peeked at your cores and your player pool. They were very similar to some of the stuff that I had. It was a profitable day for me, a profitable day for a lot of us. How are you doing on this Monday?
Yeah, it was a good day yesterday. On FanDuel, DK not as good. A couple pivots on DK didn't work out as good with all the chalk just totally smashing yesterday. But FanDuel was pretty good. Showdown was decent last night. But, yeah, super excited to have Cody on here. I've wanted to have him on for a while. It doesn't always work out that way, but their stuff at ETR I've always respected more than anything in the industry. My buddies over there, CSU Ram, Levitan, Silva, all these guys, just great stuff over there. I've always respected it. Even last year, sent a few tweets like thanking them for their stuff. Cody does an article every single Showdown slate, golf stuff too that I've seen over the years, just the best in the business. And people always want to like try to start fights with stuff. Like I've seen it. I'm in the other Discords too. I don't always write, but I'm always lurking. I see different things, trying to stir the pot, trying to do different stuff. I've talked to Cody a bunch. There doesn't always have to be something. It's a big pond out there, people. We can do things one way. ETR can do it. All these other sites can do it. Lots and lots of things out there. There doesn't have to be a fight. We can get along and we can pick one. We can have a cert. We can invite a new man to the circle jerk tonight.
Excited to have that new partner. And yeah, establish. I mean, Adam Levitan is one of the OG guys in this industry. When I first started playing, I read this article on DraftKings that he was writing about Sunday NFL. So I mean, actually a person like many others who've helped to learn me how to do this. So it's good to do that. It's good to do the collaboration. Guys, go ahead and hit the like button. And nice, Kevin, don't come in here with this bad mojo. Just do it. We said it's okay. Go ahead and follow him. All right, let's get it. Let's get it going.
What was he saying in there? Was he
saying that no disrespect to Cody, but I'm not going to follow him on Twitter, which is it's just insulting to me.
Why would you not want to anyways, is what
I don't understand.
Why would you not want to follow sharp people? It's only going to help you in the long run. I mean, I just don't get it.
Hey, Tambo puts these tidbits out every day, and all I do is I go through it, I take a look at it, and everyone that's posting those things, follow
them. Exactly.
Because, listen, if I
why not?
Someone's doing free statistical analysis. I might not use everything, but it's something that you can take and something that you can learn from. So nice, Kevin. We love you, but go ahead. Come on, let's go. Let's roll. And Chris Randone, my Friday partner, is in here. He says that I've got some trap and shoulder stuff going on in my tight tee. I don't know why you're looking at me so closely, Chris. We'll discuss that on Friday, but we'll move on. We'll get into this slate here. An interesting one because of the injuries, because of the matchup. Cincinnati Bengals in Cleveland going into the mistake by the lake. It's different now, but whatever. They're favored by 3.5, a 45 total. It's going to be in the upper 50s with some light rain expected throughout the first half here in Cleveland. For Cincinnati, the big news, and it's really big news, Jamar Chase is out. He's going to miss several weeks, including this week, even though he was not placed on injured reserve. Eli Apple is doubtful. Wide receiver Stanley Morgan is also out. Why do we care about him? Because Chase is out, and we need to know where that production is going to go. On the Cleveland side, David Njoku and Denzel Ward, the cornerback, have been ruled out. Cornerbacks Greg Newsome and Greedy Williams. Great first name, Greedy. If I ever have a child again, I might not consider naming him Greedy. And tight end Pharaoh Brown is questionable, and Jeremiah Owosu Koromoa, great name there. He's also questionable. He's a linebacker. We'll get into this and get started here on this game, Big T. Thoughts here at the outset. Are you expecting this to be, even though it's a in-division game, we know how bad Cleveland's defense has been. Cincinnati's defense has been more of a bend but not break kind of defense. They actually are leading the league in terms of allowing the most points to opposing kickers, which is always interesting for Showdown. What are you thinking here in how this game plays out?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting too, because Jamar Chase is a massive part, obviously, of the offense, one of the top receivers in football. One of the things Cincinnati honestly builds their whole offense around, the threat of him and the ability to go to the house every single play, basically. I'm a little surprised that the Bengals are still -3.5 on the road in Cleveland. Cleveland's always played them somewhat tough, just at times with the way they run the ball and different stuff like that gives Cincinnati troubles. But I don't know what it is. This Cincinnati team seems to have found a stride. I know everyone's going to say the Chase thing, and I don't blame them. I get it completely. But you look at the Browns, what they've done. I mean, they got beat up by the Patriots. The Chargers, who have looked terrible, beat them. The Falcons beat them. The Steelers, that was kind of a tough matchup. The Jets beat them. They really haven't played that many good teams, and they've struggled badly this year. So maybe they're just worse than we think. And the line kind of tells us exactly that, which makes this game tough, though, because if you do think Cincy's way better, which I do, on the road in division, still -3 without Jamar, it's going to make this interesting because as Cody, they do a great job with this article, kind of show the percentages. He can talk more when he talks, but they show you the kind of layout over at ETR. Looks like a crazy amount of 5-1 and 4-2 Cincy builds just because of the pricing. Like, you look at the pricing around Cincinnati, all these guys are too cheap. I don't know. I'm just assuming it was because Jamar was going to be in there when they did the price. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. That might not be what happened. I never look until the day of, as people know that follow my stuff. So I have no idea when it came out. But this pricing looks pretty egregious. And I think like guys like Mike Thomas, as we get into receiver, I think he's terrible, but he's 1,200 and people are going to play him. I mean, he'll be 30% owned, I would bet, tonight. So I don't know. It's an interesting game. We got another game too that we just got to figure out how can we get different, because people are going to be on the same stuff. They're going to be on these Bengals guys. T. Higgins has to be 70+% at 8K. I don't know. It's an interesting game for sure. And just, it's a matter of what happens if Cleveland gets behind too, because Chubb obviously plays way better and always has these outliers when he's ahead, just touchdowns. And again, I don't have all the stats, but he seems to score every time he touches the ball. So it's going to be an interesting one, I think, JT.
Definitely interesting. And speaking of egregious, one egregious thing that I just have to correct and add to something you said. You mentioned the Atlanta Falcons, the first place Atlanta Falcons. As
how'd they win
hysterical and
again
disgusting as that
yesterday?
is.
I mean,
how about if you're DJ Moore today? Like what do you do? I mean,
first of all, though, like, I hate these taunting penalties. I get it. The dude caught a 60-yard touchdown to put his team theoretically going to win the game. Why the hell are we, unless he literally drops his pants and starts waving his cock in the wind? Like, what is he getting a penalty for, JT? Talk to me. Like, why?
Listen, whether or not I agree with it, I do think it's silly, but I just hope that someone went to his house last night after the game and took all of the rope and the sharp objects away, because you saw him on the bench at the end of that game.
The camera couldn't wait to go to him, too, after it was over.
Oh, they didn't move the camera from him at all. It was hard enough to find what was going on in the field because they were just focused on him, dejected on the bench. It was terrible. Cody, I'll bring it over to you. This game, talked about it here. Now, some other news on the Cleveland side, of course, with Njoku out, Kareem Hunt rumored to be on the trading block. We saw two different outcomes of two other guys yesterday on the trading block. Alvin Kamara absolutely smashed. Brandon Cooks absolutely did not smash. He kind of withered away, and maybe some of that was the Houston game plan. But what do you see here with this game? Cleveland, it looks like they have played these in-division games a little bit more closely. Game against the Ravens was fairly close. What are you seeing here? And certainly there's some vulnerability to be had in this Cincinnati defense. And of course, Cleveland missing a bunch of defensive pieces once again.
Yeah, look, I'm with you guys, man. Cincinnati looks like the team to be here, the team to be on here with the 4-2 and the 5-1 stuff coming through as much as it is. But like Big T said, man, how are we going to get different in those builds to have 4 Bengals and 2 Browns, or 5 Bengals and 1 Brown? It's all the pricing stuff. And, even if Jamar Chase was in, I think the pricing on T. Higgins at 8K would have been egregious. I think Mixon is a little cheap at 9,400. It just sets up so well now with Jamar Chase out for the field to go real heavy on these 4-2 and 5-1 lineup construction. So, the way I'm thinking about this, can we either flip it and just hope that the Browns can be competent and keep this thing close and maybe lean on Chubb in this rushing attack, and we can kind of flip the script? Or, who can we find that's going to be low owned to kind of make a difference in our lineups. I think the biggest takeaway from the Chase stuff might not even be how many more opportunities it's going to give guys like T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. It's the fact that this offense just might change how they play. Zach Taylor has been, we love to throw around the fake sharp and the donkey narrative with Zach Taylor, but to his credit, he's been very matchup dependent with how he's attacked opposing defenses. It's been really pass heavy the last couple of weeks against the Saints, who's a bad pass defense, against the Falcons, who's been a bad pass defense. Now all of a sudden he gets a Browns team that's been a really bad run defense. Is he just going to lean on Joe Mixon here? I kind of like taking that lean. If we think that the Bengals are just a better team here, then we want to kind of lean into that narrative. I like being a little bit heavier than the field on Joe Mixon and kind of building around that. And I think if you get one of these games that is a little bit uglier, like we see these primetime games tend to be, if it's ugly and we see a bunch of inefficient running, if we see fewer pass attempts than expected, you could see a situation where like both Mixon and Chubb get there because it's just a close on the ground, back and forth type affair. And I don't know how much the field's going to want to use like Mixon and Chubb together. They're pretty high owned individually, but maybe we get a situation where we can kind of lean into this rushing narrative.
Yeah. And so before we go any further, once again, one thing for you, one thing for us. For you, hit the subscribe button. You can even enable notifications, I think, so that you know when a show is starting. You can, well, it's not going to tell you when Big T drops his player pool, but maybe we'll tell you it is, and go ahead if it doesn't, sorry. And then hit the like button for us, 421 watching, only 167 likes. I know it's early on in the show, so we'll give you some slack here. Big T, Cody was talking about Joe Mixon. One of the things that I was doing when I was looking at potential lineups here is playing around with the captain Joe Mixon, just because of exactly his point, how bad the Browns have been defensively against the rush. People were concerned here a little bit that Samaje Perine was getting some run, but it's really more of third down work and then late in the game work when the Bengals are ahead. Where do you stand right now in terms of looking at your captain ownership, and where does Mixon fit in the mix overall?
Yeah, I mean, it's the common thing you're going to hear around the industry today, no matter where. Like, everyone wants this to go back to Mixon. And as a Bengals fan, everyone knows I'm a Bengals fan. Love the Bengals. It's what they love to do. Before the last couple of weeks, it would drive us insane because they just first down, hand it to Mixon. Second down, maybe throw it. And then all of a sudden you're in third down and 5 every single drive, every single time. You're not going to survive if you're always in 3rd and 5. I don't care if you're Mahomes, you're Burrow, you're Josh Allen. If you're in 3rd and 5 all day, you are eventually going to stall out and have to punt, have to do different stuff. So I really hope that it's not true, but it's what they've done. It's what they've always done. They fall back into this run game. And just to compound what I was talking about earlier, just a little bit more, I wanted to pull the scores up. In my head, I hadn't looked at anything, but I know Cleveland has always played Cincinnati tough. So January 9, 22, they won 21-16, Cleveland. And the other game last year, they won 41-16 in Cincinnati. So Cleveland won both games last year. You go back the year before, 37-34 and 35-30, both Cleveland wins. So they've won 4 straight times versus Cincinnati. Now you take Chase out of the mix, and you add in that everyone in the field is going to play Bengals. Just on the surface, again, I'm a Bengals fan, but I pride myself in being a professional and not letting these things impact what I do. How is it not the best spot of all time just to play a heavy Browns build and be different? I mean, from Cody's chart over at ETR, I mean, I'm not saying 5-1, usually 4-2 is like the best solid way, I think the other way. But if you play 5-1 Cleveland, he's got it up on there. 4% of teams right now projected for that, 11% to be 4-2 Cleveland, and even 26, 3-3. So you're talking less than half of the field is going to play either 3 or more Cleveland guys. And honestly, Cincinnati doesn't even have that many options. So let's just say we think Mixon is the guy, in theory. You could easily play Mixon with one other piece, whoever it is, Burrow, Higgins, go down the list, kicker, anybody, and play 3 or 4 Browns with it. I don't even think it's that crazy of a roster construction. You are sacrificing a little bit of projection just because of how cheap the prices are, but that doesn't matter in Showdown, as we've seen for years. Weird Constructions does good stuff. And naturally, everyone's going to like the Bengals more than the Browns anyways, because they're a sexy team. Burrow, Mixon, T, all these guys are exciting. Even the kicker's freaking exciting. People love McPherson. So I don't know. I think the opportunity is incredible tonight in the top spot to play a guy like Amari Cooper, even DPJ, Harrison Bryant, maybe even as a tight end. I kind of like these Cleveland guys up top in the captain. We need to talk too when we get to the utility about Kareem Hunt, because I could see him just getting a DNP tonight. Trade deadlines tomorrow. I've heard some people say like maybe they want to showcase him. Everyone knows Kareem Hunt. They don't need to showcase him. Why would they risk an injury when they're almost guaranteed to get, I don't know, 4th or 5th round draft pick? I have no idea what his value is, so somebody might make fun of that comment, but get something back for Kareem Hunt. I don't think they need to play him. So you could even go to who D'Ernest or whoever is the next guy in line. But to answer your question, JT, after being long-winded, I mean, I think Cleveland guys and the captain are where I want to live tonight a little bit, even though it does hurt me as a Cincy guy.
It does. It hurts to go against the team, but I mean, I'll be honest, yesterday, right? We were talking before the show. Everyone knows I've been down on the Atlanta offense, but the math just kept saying Kyle Pitts is a great play. So I had to play some Kyle Pitts. It hurt me because I'm like, they never throw to this guy. You said this on the show yesterday. And then sure enough, he gets just enough done to make it into a bunch of optimals. So
that's where we victory lap it after we've recommended him for like 3 straight years. It feels like he finally catches a touch. We come in, we're like, we told you so, baby. Let's play him.
I've been saying no to him, and then I did my first run on the opto, and it was like 88% Kyle Pitts. I'm like, okay, no, got to bring this down. Turned out he worked out fine. Cody, we'll go over to you here. Sticking with this theme, thoughts on Mixon and the captain, and then thoughts on this Cleveland side, because Amari Cooper, historically, very significant home road splits, continues that trend here in Cleveland so far. This game is in Cleveland. He's got a nice bomb with Jacoby Brissett, and silently, quietly, under the radar, he's putting up a decent season, both regular and fantasy stats. And then some thoughts on, Tony mentioned the guy, D'Ernest Johnson. This is the backup guy, maybe the third down back here for Cleveland. He's very cheap, and perhaps he's the guy who's going to catch the passes, because we know that that's not Nick Chubb's forte.
You know, you talk about the balance between like, do we need to showcase a guy for a trade, or do we need to put him on ice to protect him? And you know, Adam talked about this on the ETR show, but with Schefter coming out with a very specific article report that suggests a 4th round pick would get the job done for Kareem Hunt trade. It's not one of these teams begging for 2 firsts or something egregious for a running back. It seems like they're ready to ship him, and maybe they've got something close. In those circumstances, like Big T said, man, they know the league knows who Kareem Hunt is. There's no need for a showcase here. I think we could see all 3 backs active, in which case would be nice if you want to take that lean that D'Ernest is the backup tonight, and that they do put Kareem Hunt on ice before the trade deadline. I think he should make your MME player pool worth a sprinkle at 200. And I think it's even better if we don't get that news before lock, because he's just going to be completely unowned. You mentioned Amari Cooper. I love Amari Cooper tonight. He's you mentioned it, quietly had a pretty good season so far with Cleveland. The targets have been there when Cleveland has needed to throw. And if they do fall behind, maybe have to get away from that rushing attack that they've leaned on so heavily, we could see another one of those double-digit target games for Amari. He's been efficient when getting targeted. We had 10 targets in week 2, 11 targets in week 3, back-to-back games of 12 targets in weeks 5 and 6. You know, that's going to be enough to get it done on a lot of showdown slates. You know, we get one of those classic 10 for 100 and a touchdown games from Amari. That's going to put him in captain consideration. And I think the fact that he's so closely priced to T. Higgins right there at 8K, Amari's 7,600, I believe, you're gonna get like half the ownership maybe. You know, everyone's excited to play T because Chase is out. Why not go to Amari for half the captain ownership?
Makes a ton of sense. I'll stay with you here because we do have a murky tight end situation, at least on the Cleveland side. Farrell Brown, questionable. Harrison Bryant, Tony mentioned him. He's been a showdown hero for us before. A couple of years ago, I remember a big game where he played against the Steelers and had a really big game at low ownership. And then on the other side, Hayden Hurst and Mitchell Wilcox. Wilcox just 800. Is that a situation where you're looking at any of these cheaper guys to round out, in particular Bryant or Wilcox?
You know, I'm interested in what you guys think on the Bengals stuff too, because my initial thought was like, man, this team's probably just going to continue to run 3 wide receiver sets. That probably means that it's Mike Thomas out there. But what if they switch things up a little bit and think that, you know, they need to go to Mitchell Wilcox? Do you think Mitchell Wilcox is a play at 800 if they go more 2 tight end heavy?
The Hurst thing is interesting because we've seen this. We saw this a couple of times last year, Big T, where all of a sudden they'd break Uzoma out of the glass case and he'd go nuts, have an absolutely wild game. It was usually in these showdown settings where everyone's loading up on Chase, T, Boyd, Mixon, and all of a sudden Uzoma goes 8 for 108 with a touchdown. Is this a situation where you can see Hayden Hurst getting himself to the position of being perhaps one of the highest scorers?
Yeah, I mean, he's just been good this year in general. He's been a nice addition. He was always like highly touted too coming into this year, just never quite put it together. Yeah, I always struggle with people like him. I mean, he's 5,200, it looks like. I struggle to see the ceiling, but again, you don't necessarily need a ceiling in every position. If he gets, well, we've seen it a ton on showdowns lately. Guy gets a touchdown, 5 catches, 50 yards or something, gets to 16 points or whatever that is. That's huge. So I don't know. I'm starting to look at, and tight ends have just nuked the showdown slates for the last couple of years without a doubt. But yeah, I mean, he's got to be somewhat owned tonight too. The good part about Cincy, they just don't really go that deep, which is the problem when their studs get hurt is, I mean, you look at these backup guys and there's just nothing there. There just isn't. Well, one of the good things, though, is I think everyone's just going to play Mike Thomas tonight. And by everyone, I mean as like the main punt that kind of fits in 20 to 30% owned, which is huge to Mike Thomas to me because I just think he's really bad. I really struggle to see Mike Thomas getting to 16, whereas like Hurst, I could see it. I could see some, even like P. Ryan, I could at least see him getting, I know he's more. People out there watching are like, he's 4,800, Mike Thomas is 1,200. It still comes down to points, though, in a way. And if I think P. Ryan's going to get much better chance of getting there than Thomas, even though he's projected lower, like no one's going to play P. Ryan. No one's going to play Trent Taylor, even though he played in the Super Bowl. They trusted him enough to give him a huge 2-point conversion in the freaking Super Bowl. What's going to happen? They hate Mike Thomas. They're bringing dudes in off the street to try out at receiver because of how much they hate Mike Thomas. Trust me, he's terrible. If there's one guy, I'll just give you the fade. If there's one guy I want to fade tonight, it's Mike Thomas. He's 1,200. Everyone's going to play him. Even say he hits his projection, which around the industry 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, anywhere in there. I just don't see it. In showdown, you still need double digits needs to be your target point, no matter who it is. And it's one thing to play Mike Thomas if you think he's going to be 5% owned. It's quite another when you think he's going to be 25% owned. You just don't get different enough. I'd rather play literally anyone that you're going to name, JT, I'd rather play than Mike Thomas tonight. That gets me different. The guy that sticks out, though, like for me, just as a pivot, I know they're more, well, Trent Taylor's cheaper. I would play him too, because like what Cody said, I could see them, Boyd's known to play the slot, but I wouldn't be surprised if they just pushed him outside here and there, let Trent Taylor play the slot, do the like Wes Welker role where he's working the middle. And who knows? I mean, he could catch 6 balls for 70 yards or something. I think he was even good in San Francisco when he was there, or decent. So I trust him more than Mike Thomas. Basically, anyone to pivot off Mike Thomas is going to be my plan.
So hatred for Mike Thomas is noted. The comparison to the Super Bowl and what Zach Taylor trusts. Listen, I mean, we all saw where he trusted Samaje Perine instead of Joe Mixon for a pretty important 3rd and 5.
Two guys he trusted, I just named, Perine and Trent Taylor. I'm just saying, it's showdown.
Let me stay with you to talk about this Cleveland receiving core. We have talked about Amari Cooper. You have mentioned Donovan Peoples-Jones, who has been pretty good. You have David Bell as well over there. I think that's probably as deep as you would go, unless you're going to consider Michael Woods II. Where are you looking in terms of Cleveland for the production at receiver? Is it just Cooper and Peoples-Jones? Or are you interested here in some David Bell or some of these other guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks good from all these guys. Even DPJ, I've never been a DPJ guy, but look at his last 4 weeks: 9 targets, 7, 5, and 6. I mean, those are good numbers. And if you're Cincy, you got to think they want to shut down this run game, make these guys throw it. You just have to. So it just seems like a clear fit showdown wise to play the passing game a little bit. I'm not saying you can't play the running game, but again, I don't think you can play Hunt. Chubb's going to play way better from ahead, which I do think the Browns can win this game. So I'm in on the passing game. I worry a little bit more about Cooper than other people will, just because the Bengals have always played very well the last 2 years against these deep threats. They always played the Chiefs really good with the deep threats. But Coop, like Cody was saying, Coop's got a lot of possessions this year too. Possession type catches where he didn't have that in the past. He was more of a boom or bust guy. This year they have found him and got him a lot of use. So yeah, I'm in on the passing game for sure of Cleveland. It might be my favorite spot of the night. And David Bell, whenever they were last on the showdown versus the Ravens or whatever week it was, I talked about David Bell. He was a beast in college. Everyone knows I love college DFS. The dude was a stud. They keep getting him more and more involved, and he's going to have a breakout at some point. Why not on a showdown slate?
Cody, I'll kick it over to you. Same topic here on the Cleveland passing game. Cooper has been much more of a wide receiver one in Cleveland. And like I said, especially at home, it's just, I don't know what it is, but no matter where he's played, he's been better at home. This game is in Cleveland.
Yeah, and we talk about the Bengals side being so condensed with David Njoku out. I think this side's going to be pretty condensed as well. And it sets up for a situation where if you want to lean into those 4 Browns, 2 Bengals, you can get a couple of pass catchers alongside Jacoby Brissett, who, Big T can talk about this. When we first started playing Showdown, you wouldn't see a Showdown slate with a quarterback under, 40% owned, let alone under 30% owned. We just saw Andy Dalton coming at 17%. No one wants to roster these pocket passing quarterbacks that don't have much rushing upside. Then you add in the fact that the Browns offense is very run centric. We're projecting 40.2% ownership on Jacoby Brissett. I got to feel like that's coming in even lower with how much people are on the Chubb stuff, with how much people are going to be on the Bengals side of things. I think Jacoby Brissett is certainly one guy that's going to get squeezed. And if we want to just be inherently heavy on the Browns pass catchers, I think that should boost up our interest in Jacoby Brissett as well. I still think Coop's my favorite of the bunch, but you're going to get really nice ownership on some of these secondary guys. DPJ is a dude that's got 15, 20, 25 points well within his range of outcomes as a deeper target, going to come in 20 to 25% owned. David Bell hasn't put it together yet, but he's 2,400. And, talk about not a direct price pivot off of Mike Thomas, but he's pretty close in price and is going to be, a third of the total ownership. Why not just lean into this a little bit and kind of get different from the field in that respect and just say, okay, I know the Browns are a run first offense. We know they want to lean on Chubb, but maybe, just maybe, this Bengals defense forces them into more dropbacks, and maybe we see a little bit more volume for some of these guys.
And Eli Apple, doubtful here. Also good for Cooper. Whoever he's going to cover is going to get a downgrade there. I'll stick with you just on the topic of receivers, and I want to move on. But in terms of this Cleveland defense missing so many of their personnel, the DBs, I know we're talking through this game. Does that not give you a little bit more interest in these Cincinnati guys because even though they're going to be high owned, or is it because they're going to be high owned, you're thinking, hey, how can I get a little bit leverage? And maybe you see just as good an opportunity for the Cleveland guys.
I think there's a break-even point on T. Higgins at the 8K price tag. If we get, 70, 75% ownership on T. Higgins, and maybe we're pushing 20% ownership in the captain spot, then I think that's a good spot to get away. If it sticks around 60, 65 even might be kind of that break-even point, then I think we got to just say, okay, we're going to hold hands with the field on this one roster spot. We got 5 other places to get different. Let's find a way to get different. The one thing I will say with respects to the matchup is that could kind of counteract the fact that Jamar Chase is out. Jamar Chase has commanded a ton of double teams. And I know sometimes that could just mean one safety shading over to the other side, but you don't have that threat on the opposite side with Mike Thomas as you do with Jamar Chase. So could we get into a situation now where Higgins is the only guy in the passing attack that this Browns defense needs to worry about. We start to see the safety shade over. We start to see some real double teams on Cincy's wide receiver one, and that could open things up for some of these other guys that are a little bit cheaper. I'm with Tony at 20, 25, 30% on Mike Thomas. Just, you have to avoid those type of spots. If Mike Thomas was 10, 15%.
Yes. All right. Well, hopefully we'll get him back here in a minute. Tony, I'll move on to you. We got you back, Cody.
Sorry, guys. Did you lose me?
Yeah, just lost you for a second. Go ahead. You were talking about fading Mike Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, at 25, 30% Mike Thomas, I think that's a spot you got to get away from. It could open the door for some of these other guys, but I think you're just playing into so much ownership here because of the price tags setting up so nicely for these guys. So if you can tell me I can get contrarian with the other side of the ball in the Cleveland passing attack, then I think that's a place that I want to be.
Yeah, lots of ownership there. And, if we're trying to get different, we're talking about maybe looking at how this game goes another way. That's been a theme that we've covered every single Monday here is what does the public think and what are the other ways that this game could go? Talked about these games being shootouts. Big T, obviously here at Run Pure Sports, we've made a name for ourselves by loving the kickers and loving the defenses in this format and getting a little bit of crap for it. By the way, 236 likes, 666 watching is absolutely not going to cut it. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button so that you can continue to get all of this Run Pure Sports content. And if you're not a member, head on over runpuresports.com and sign up. Maybe you can follow the lead of our guy, Holly Peno, turning less than $200 into $77,000 on a Sunday. Cade York, Evan McPherson, no one's going to play these defenses, right? I mean, I can't imagine that anyone's going to play these defenses. But then again, maybe Cincinnati's defense is going to be more popular than they should be here. What are your thoughts here? Kickers and defense this week, Big T.
First of all, I think it's funny, too, because a lot of people were making fun around the industry. And again, last week, I forget who, Rickety maybe, whoever shipped the Millie that night, had a kicker and a defense. It wasn't I think it was the New England game where it was the opposite side maybe, but they had Bears D and Bears kicker, where again, like people can make fun of it all they want, but when a kicker kicks 4 or 5 field goals, which happens all the time, they're going to have a chance to ship for you. Like they're just better than the cheap plays. So I'm always naturally going to be drawn on them. In the captain's a different story. You need like the one slate we shipped early in the year. It broke perfectly, but it can happen. And it can happen on slates like this, honestly, where you have low ceilings, high floors, where Jacoby's the perfect example of this, where he gets 15, Mixon gets 15 because he gets tons of volume and doesn't score. T. Higgins gets 6 catches for 60 yards, 13 points. There's only a couple touchdowns, and then McPherson or York kicks 5 field goals. There's your path to shipping, and it can happen. Am I on it tonight? I don't know. I don't think I'm on it as heavy tonight. But these kickers and Ds, I mean, they're going to be normal owned. I would say nothing outrageous because of the pricing. We got Mike cheap. We got other guys cheap. These kickers, I mean, it's probably in the 20s if I had to guess. Cody might have a better idea with their numbers, but I think in the 20s, maybe the Ds somewhere in the teens, maybe a little bit lower than the kickers. But I like them tonight. I mean, I already said I don't want to play Mike. I don't like a lot of the cheap guys that much. And I don't necessarily think you need the studs. Like some of the times when you want to go down the cheap range, there's these stud guys that you have to play, the Josh Allens, like you have to play Josh Allen. I love Joe Burrow, don't get me wrong, but you don't have, his ceiling is outrageous. We've seen it. He shipped 5 or 6 main slates with massive ceilings. But he also has the games where they hand it off a ton to Mixon and do stuff. So he's not like Josh Allen and Lamar and these guys where it's really hard for them not to get there. So yeah, I'm definitely on the kickers and Ds tonight. Like too crazy, but I always talk about looking at game logs with the kickers. I mean, you look at McPherson, every time they're on a showdown, I pull it up and say it. I guess he struggled a little bit the last couple of weeks, but 11, 10, 13, 8. I mean, these are nice floor games. And I know York's hit some bombs. He hit the long game winner the one week. Both these guys average 8 points. He's got a 12 and a 16. I mean, I don't know. These kickers are solid. They're not going to be like core pieces for me tonight, but I want to be above the field, like maybe 30% kicker, 10 to 20% defense. So similar to the field, probably on the D's as well.
Yeah, McPherson the last few weeks, because Cincinnati was just scoring touchdown after touchdown. So he's just getting, unfortunately, the point after attempts and not getting the field goals. Luis Martin Valbuena is in our chat. He's asking a question in Spanish, and I'm not sure what the question is. Something about
I see Cincinnati in the statement.
Yeah.
Who's the winner, Luis?
If they don't have the passing corridor, I'm not sure.
You know how to read that? That's impressive.
Yeah.
You kind of rolled that out a little bit.
I have many talents. ¿Quién gana Cincinnati a pesar de no tener al corredor?
Who's his winner? Ask him who his winner is in Spanish.
¿Quién es el ganar, Luis? ¿Quién es el ganar? Cody, we'll bring it over to you. Sticking with the thought process here, kickers, defenses, Cade York talked about earlier on how Cincinnati is yielding the most fantasy points to opposing kickers, likely because they have been pretty good defending in the red zone. What do you see here at kicker and defense?
Yeah, I like them both at flex tonight. And I think the big reason for that is you look at the players that they're priced around and like, who do they need to beat? You know, who do they need to beat to be in a winning lineup at the flex, especially like if they just get the 10, 11, 12 points, is that going to be enough to beat guys like Kareem Hunt, Hayden Hurst, guys below him like Harrison Bryant, Mike Thomas? You know, I think that's an interesting path to go, and you don't necessarily need the salary relief tonight. So, you know, you can play these McPhersons and Cade Yorks where they're going to be 20, 25% owned as opposed to 30, 35, 40%. And, you know, shout out to you guys because you're the reason why kickers are so goddamn owned now, because you go out there and ship with them and then everyone wants to play them. So it is a nice night where we can kind of get back to some normalcy in kicker ownership, and we'll come back down to 20, 25%. I like my chances of McPherson or York or both competing with some of those skill position players that I think are going to be more popular, like Hayden Hurst and Kareem Hunt and those guys.
So many people too on these are the slates I like, the kickers, because so many people are going to gamble on a lot of these cheap plays. We've already talked about it, and like a ton of them are going to end up with like less than 3 fantasy points, no matter what you think. Yep. So just by getting ahead of all of them, and we had the argument the other night at MMA on Twitter a little bit, like, would you take all these goofballs on Twitter, like after 4 matches that there's like 4, one really high score, another good score, 4 winners though. And they're like making fun of people for saying they would take the 4 winners, when if you take the 4 winners, you're like guaranteed to profit. It's all these 150 guys out there that are like so dead set on their unique shipping the whole thing that they're getting a little ahead of themselves is all I'm saying. I've shipped plenty of tournaments, but if you're going to guarantee me a profit by just giving me 4 winners, give it to me. I don't need to ship. The whole goal is to make money, right?
You know, you said something really interesting after that showdown slate where you guys won with the kicker and it was in your core and you won with all the members. You know, for most people playing this, and for most people playing the way that they do, that's your best bet. That's the best route. It's a route that's going to more often lead to profits than not. If you're in there windmill slamming 150 and you've got 3 to 5K in play every night, you probably can't afford to do that in some of those tournaments most often and afford those dupes. But even on that slate, man, you had that same lineup in a tournament that was pretty unique, got you 200K. Like, I think that gets lost on most players, right?
How many people play 150? Like 1%?
Yeah. Less. I mean, less probably. It's for some people, that's the way that they're going to have to play. For most people listening to this, most people playing tonight, like, it's okay if you're duped 5, 10, 15, 20 times, you know, because those lineups are more likely to win. It's probably a more positive experience for you. If you're trying to play this professionally or even semi-professionally, yeah, you need to worry about your dupes and stuff. But I think you get much safer floors and much more likely to win with one of these kickers in your lineups, as opposed to, you know, one of these dust balls that are 5-10% or less owned. You know what I mean? It's a lot of it's personal preference, but you kind of have to think through like what you want your night to look like. And more often than not, you're going to be enjoying it. And if you're enjoying it with 20 to 30 of your friends, you know, so be it. But if you're trying to play professionally, then you need to be a little bit more cognizant of your dupes. But yeah, I mean, I for that reason, like, the kickers, give me the floor. Let me lock it in some of these lineups where I know I won't be too duplicated, and then I'll kind of move on to the other spots.
So many casual people too. Like, I think it's important to talk about, because how many people, and they love it too, like when they're in contention all night. I've seen it. Tons of my buddies do it for fun. They work. My family does it. They do it for fun. So when you're watching the game, you're at the bar, you're at their house, they have their DK app open all night, looking at their two teams. Like our boy Jalapeno yesterday. He had two teams in the Millie Maker. They always say you can't win with two teams. You need 150. Don't put them in. I heard all the crap. It's just not true. Casual people, though, I mean, he's going to look at it all night. Would you rather have whoever, Miller Forrestal in there tonight getting you 0, but you got that unique, but he's never going to get you any points? Or would you rather be up top all night? Use last night, for example. You're up top all night, and then the dude from Nebraska catches a touchdown, and you're beat, but you still had that sweat all night. Maybe you profit. I'm definitely set that I think the casual people, they want to be in contention. They want to have fun. They're not doing this for a living. They're doing it to have a sweat, and it is what it is.
We got about 10 minutes left here. 700 watching, not even 300 likes yet. It's very disgusting. Let's get at least to 400. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
I didn't even click the like button myself. That's embarrassing. I gotta at least like it, out of respect of working with you two heroes here.
I mean, here I am giving the people a hard time.
I know. I feel bad.
And you're not contributing to the cause. It's very.
I did hit it now, though. I was number 269, so I got that magic number.
Perfect. It's going to be a shipper. Metal Alloy 419. RPS offers translation services too. Yes, as a matter of fact, Tony, we've got to get the RPS head of product. That's Amber Niehaus. We've got to get a shirt that says Ganadas. Ganadas is winners in Espanol, and we need it. I need it. I need a tank top. If you get me a Ganadas tank top, I'll wear it on the show next week. And then Beanair says at Chili's, we love Beanair. He's one of our favorite members here, Chris, although we love all our members, of course. Cody, excuse me. He says, at Chili's, can you pay in uniques? Big T, I don't know if you know the answer to that.
I don't think Chili's takes the uniques, unfortunately. You need that cheese. You need that duplicate money.
All right, Cody, I'll kick it over to you as we finalize and get ready to get on out of here. Final thoughts. Is this game going to shoot out? And then your most contrarian captain option that you would consider here on this slate?
Yeah, I'm kind of taking the lean that this is going to be an ugly, old school AFC North smash mouth brawl type of game. I do think that, I'm going to give Zach Taylor a little bit of credit here. I think that he's been pretty matchup dependent in terms of his play calling. I think that this is a spot that sets up for him to be a little bit more run heavy. I think the Browns, we know the Browns want to be run heavy, one of the most run heavy teams in the league outside of Atlanta and Chicago and some of these teams. So I think we see it back and forth, rushing affair. Maybe these offenses look inefficient. Maybe it's one of those slates where, an hour after lock, I'm tweeting about how miserable I am because these offenses both suck. But I do think it's going to play fairly low scoring. I think if I had a lean, I would take under 45. And I think we see these rushing attacks on full display tonight. In terms of contrarian captain, generally the way that I'm playing is trying to find someone maybe a little bit further down the board, but not one of these completely off the wall type of plays that's, sub 5% even. I'm looking kind of in that middle range for a guy that I know has consistent access to a legitimate ceiling. And for me tonight, that's Coop at 7.8% ownership on our projections right now. You're going to have these Cincy guys like Burrow, like Mixon, like T pushing 15, 20% a piece because of the way that they're priced. I think Chubb could get up there a little bit because I think people are excited about that. Even Tyler Boyd at 6,400, I think is going to push 8 to 10% captain ownership. Coop's going to sit there because people aren't as excited as we might be about this Browns offense, at least this Browns passing offense. So give me Cooper at 7.8. That's not super off the wall, but I want guys that have consistent access to a legitimate ceiling. And we've seen it already a couple of times from Coop with 10, 11, 12 targets per game, a couple of these games here in his first few as a Brown. I think we see another double-digit target game here. I think we could get, 20, 25 plus DraftKings points from Cooper. And in a game that I think is going to be ugly, that's going to feature a lot of rushing attempts, I think 20 to 25 is going to be plenty at the captain spot.
It's a good call. It makes a lot of sense based on the game environment. And also, if this game is like you called and talked about it and said it's going to be ugly and you're miserable watching it, at least tonight you can flip on the World Series. You can turn on NBA. It's just a great time of year. So at least misery, you can always flip off.
He's going to be out there carting the kids around the streets. What he's going to be.
Oh, that's true. It is Halloween. I didn't say happy Halloween to the people. Happy Halloween, people. Tony, a couple of people in chat before you get to giving your final thoughts, a couple of people asking Can you spend a couple of minutes talking about a 3-max strategy as it relates to Showdown, this slate in particular? And then a question that came in, which is, does it concern you that the Bengals haven't allowed a touchdown in the second half this season? And for me, thinking about them not allowing a touchdown in the second half, it's more about variance for me. I think at some point that's going to correct. What are your thoughts on those two things?
Yeah, I mean, just out of the gate, their defense. I mean, you look at the playoffs last year, they locked people up in the second half. That's why they went to the Super Bowl. They literally locked up all three teams they played. Even the Rams game, they had them pretty well locked up. And then it just happened that Cooper Kupp was Cooper Kupp, and he got the job done and got the Super Bowl win. And it's gone all year this year. They're really good at making adjustments. I agree that obviously they're going to give up a touchdown here and there, but I do think their defense is very, very good, which leads to Cody's point that it could play ugly tonight, especially if both teams want to run the ball, which they do. I don't know. Like, it just feels like a very good spot to take the Browns. I am worried that the Bengals might just be better and we just get ambushed by it because it's chalk, which chalk just keeps hitting lately. And it just could be a way better spot. Like, maybe the Browns do just suck. But I just think the Browns are the right side in Showdown, and that's all that matters to me in the long run, that we're getting these edges. As far as the 3-max stuff, I am the worst to answer these questions because people always say single entry, 3-max, 150. The dead honest truth of how I build, you'll see it if you follow my stuff. I just try to build the best teams, honestly. Sure, the 3-max and single entry, maybe I build a little safer. Like, I always play the 2K in these showdowns, which is always, 100 people or something in it. Obviously, I'm going to try to build like my best team in that doesn't need quite as much upside, but I'm still just trying to build my best team. I just put it in everything. I don't think like, oh, this is 3-max, I need to play this way. So I'm probably just the wrong person to ask, because I know some people like K Fallick in there are really good at just 3-max and single entry strategy. I just don't do it. Like, I just build my best team, and then I build my 150, and my 150, I obviously try to build upside into my 150, pay a little bit of attention to different scripts and stuff. But honestly, just build the best team in 3-max. That's what I would do. And if I was playing 3 teams, which I think a lot of people do, that's got to be pretty standard for casual people, like pop 3 teams in the millie I would just do different scripts, honestly, unless you feel super confident. Like tonight, say you got however much it is, $60. You got 3 teams you're going to put in. I would build one super chalky with Bengals heavy. And this is going to sound like a hedge, but it's just how I would do it if I was a casual person. I'd build the best possible team. Maybe not the optimal if you run it, but close to the optimal. Maybe like, because I'm sure our boy Mike Thomas is hitting the optimal, right, Cody?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
so
he's in
I would just do that. If I was building 3-max, build a Bengals team, optimal, pivot Mike Thomas to anybody. Second one, I'd go what we're talking about. Build Browns heavy, 4-2 or 5-1. And then the third one, kind of meet in the middle a little bit, and maybe a 3-3 or something like. Just give yourself 3 chances, because in Showdown, you can even do it with the similar people. Like, you could play Joe Mixon on all 3 of them, all 3 builds. Have a couple guys in all 3, but give you outs, though, so that if it goes different directions, you're not totally dead. Well, some of the time you actually get surprised where the teams actually meet somewhat close in the middle. We've even seen slates recently where the optimal is 2 different teams, not full teams, but 1 or 2 guys different, and the points still equal similar amount. So that would be my answer to that.
And just in case you want more on the 3-max content and more about how to approach it, our guy, Sweet Travis Mangone. That's right, Sweet Travis. He does for almost every slate now a 3-max write-up, talks you through his process, gives you 3 different ways to look. And I noticed on his 3-max yesterday, he was really, really close to the optimal with his 2 a stack. So congrats to Sweet Travis if you want more of that content. Final thoughts, Tony, here on this game. Contrarian captain types. By the way, someone is asking, Mike Thomas at captain in play. You weren't here.
If we don't like him in the utility, I'm going to go ahead and say we definitely don't like him in the captain.
Yeah, Mike Thomas in play to hit that X button so that he doesn't hit any of your lineups.
If Mike Thomas nukes this slate, I promise you I'll be losing money tonight. I can promise you that. but definitely
final-
not captain. Like, oh my God, I couldn't.
It's like using a relief pitcher at captain, isn't it? I've seen you railing on that recently.
Ooh, but my strategies with Cody's tonight. Like, I like this passing game from Cleveland. I could play some DPGA. I honestly like Coop with Cody, so I don't want to like steal it. Just feels like a good play. All 4 home games, at least I think they've only played 4 double-digit targets.
Yep.
Even if he doesn't get you that ceiling, like 15 could be good tonight. And I just like the options he gives you at 7,600. And it's a pivot off the chalkiest guy on the slate, which will be my take. This will be my take. People can leave. I think T. Higgins is the fade. He's going to be massively owned. And Cody's point is what I've always said is I like these teams with 2 receivers better with both. Because when the one's out, everyone like thinks, oh, he's got all the targets now, blah, blah, blah. Well, he doesn't have all that focus of the defense worrying about Jamar going to the freaking window every play. So there's going to be guys rolling over coverage. They're going to make Tyler Boyd. I honestly don't like Tyler Boyd that much either, which really points us to that Joe Mixon where we started the show with, where do I think Joe Mixon's good? Not really, but if he gets the volume, that's all that matters in this format. And it gives you outs because if the Bengals are really good, he could be good. If they're bad, he can still get the volume and be good. So that's my strong takeaway that I hope we can leave people with. More Mixon, and I really don't want that much Higgins and Boyd, which that's 100% of the ownership right there. I mean, if you weigh Boyd and Higgins, I can guarantee it's over 100% of total ownership. So that's my strong take. Even though I'm a Bengals fan, if I'm wrong, it's going to hurt me. But at least the Bengals will get the job done. So it's a little bit of a natural hedge for me.
Points you to maybe leaving out Joe Burrow, going with Mixon and maybe a guy
Burrow's
like
who I struggle more to leave out. I didn't talk
Yeah.
much about Burrow as we went, but like I could even see my dream build. I haven't built a single team yet, just looked at this, but if I could get just a Burrow Mixon with 4 Browns, I feel really good about that construction. Even if you threw in McPherson or something for 3-3, and you fade all this chalk with all 3 of the Bengals. There you go, right there. That's like a good strat. All 3 Bengals receivers as the fades. You're going to be very unique by fading those 3. I can promise you. And I really don't think it's that unlikely that none of them go off.
And Cody brings up a great point about how Zach Taylor has managed these games, looking at what the weakness of the opponent is. If that's there, right? If that's how they do this, you start with Mixon and maybe you bump up Pirine a little bit, give him 10%, get him in your pool so that maybe you have some Mixon Pirine lineups really there.
Like
just
Pirine. Did Cody talk about Pirine?
Well, he said that no, not Pirine specifically, but he said that
I think he could be the winner because why can't they just put him either 2 running back sets or put him like out in the slot and let it? They love him running routes.
That's what I was saying. You're agreeing with me. I love it.
Yeah. We're agreeing on a lot. We're shipping tonight.
I like it. All right. Get on over to runpuresports.com. Right about, Tony, I know it's Halloween. I know Grayson's got to get to basketball practice. What time is the player?
We don't have practice tonight. I got to put in the stuff, and I'm going to walk around with like Cody is here in a little bit.
Excellent.
We do have 3 sports, though. Baseball, basketball, well, probably more sports, but 3 that I'm going to play. Baseball, basketball, football. I'll have it all up early tonight, though.
Every sport, the same price. Cody Main, thank you for joining us. Go ahead. Seriously. Nice, Kevin. Everybody follow him on Twitter. Establish a Run. Great partnership and collaboration. Thank you very much for joining us. For Tony Niehaus, I'm JT Hayes. Simon, get us out of here.